in the seat as King in our hearts and in our minds. God, I pray that as our lives progress and we have things, people, and situations that come into our life, in various situations that we encounter, that we get from those situations and from those people what we need to get, and that you would reign supreme in our lives. God, I praise you because you're awesome and because you are the creator of this universe. So God, I step down and I decrease as you increase. And I pray that something is said today that will reach the person in the right time so that souls are touched and lives are saved and that we can all serve you our best. In Jesus' name, amen. Today I'm going to be talking about temptation and living in transition and various issues surrounding that. And for a topic, I would like to propose to you being in the deep end. So basically, being in the deep end is a metaphorical. And by that I mean I draw a metaphor of being in the deep end of a swimming pool. You have your shallow end, which is usually about 3 to 4 feet, and then you have your deep end, which is usually about from 6 feet to 8 feet. And usually people like to kind of stay on the shallow end because they can feel the cement underneath them. There's less risk associated with being in the shallow end, being in the deep end. Being in the deep end of the pool means that you should be an expert wader or have experience wading in the water or swimming. And I draw that metaphor to compare to being in a deep end of your life. And similarly, I'm reading and studying through the book of Exodus right now, and it's such a blessing. And if you haven't, I highly suggest that you pick up that book. It's a good study book. But in that book references the children of Israel and the transition periods that they go through, and they were very much so in the deep end. And there were times where they didn't know where their next meal or drink would come from. They were in total dependence and submission to God. Matter of fact, let me just go ahead and turn to Exodus. We'll do 16 verses 1 through 21. Let's see. And they journeyed from Elam, and all the congregation of the children of Israel came to wilderness of Sin, which is between Elam and Sinai, on the 15th day of the second month after they departed from the land of Egypt. Then the whole congregation of the children of Israel complained against Moses and Aaron in the wilderness. And then the children of Israel said to them, "What? Oh, that we have died by the hand of the Lord in the land of Egypt, when we sat by the pots of meat, and when we ate bread to the full." So basically right here they were saying, in Egypt, we had food. We ate until our hearts desired. For you have brought us into this wilderness to kill this whole assembly with hunger. You brought us out of captivity to kill us with hunger. That's what the children of Israel were saying to Moses. Then the Lord said to Moses, "Behold, I will rain bread from heaven for you, and the people shall go out and gather a certain quota every day, that I may test them, whether they walk in my law or not. And it shall be on the 6th day that they shall prepare what they bring in, and it shall be twice as much as they gather daily." Then Moses and Aaron said to all the children of Israel at evening, "You should know that I am the Lord who has brought you out of the land of Egypt. And in the morning you shall see the glory of the Lord. For he hears your complaints against the Lord. But what are we that you complain against us rather. Verse 8. Also Moses said, "This shall be seen when the Lord gives you meat to eat in the evening, and in the morning bread to the full. For the Lord hears your complaints, which you make against him, and what we are, and what are we? Your complaints are not against us, but against the Lord." And I think this is a good place to stop right here, because this shows how the children of Israel were in the deep end of the pool, and their complaints were against the Lord. They were in transition. They were feeling anxious, anxiety. And this is exactly where God wanted them, because he wanted, even after he parted the Red Sea and allowed such pestilence to come on Pharaoh in his land, after he had already proven himself to the children of Israel, they still wavered and they still doubted. So this is exactly where God wanted him, because he said in verse 9, "At evening you shall know that the Lord has brought you out of the land of Egypt." So by giving them bread from heaven, he was showing the children of Israel, I am the Lord. And he's basically showing them, he has them in this place to prove to them. Then in verse 9, then Moses spoke to Aaron, "Say to all the congregation of the children of Israel, come near before the Lord, for he has heard your complaints." Verse 10, now it came to pass, as Aaron spoke to the whole congregation of the children of Israel, that they looked toward the wilderness, and behold, the glory of the Lord appeared in the cloud. And the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, I have heard the complaints of the children of Israel. Speak to them, saying, at twilight you shall eat meat, in the morning you shall be filled with bread, and you shall know that I am Lord your God. So it was that quails look like baby birds. They're small birds. Quails are baby birds. They're not baby birds, but they're small birds. So it was that quails came up at evening and covered the camp, and in the morning the dew lay around the camp. And when the layer of dew lifted, there on the surface of the wilderness was a small round substance as fine as frost on the ground. So when the children of Israel saw it, they said to one another, What is this? For they did not know what it was. And Moses said to them, This is the bread which the Lord has given you to eat. This is the thing which the Lord has commanded. Let every man gather it according to each one's need. 1 omer, which is basically a measuring tool. An omer is a measuring tool that they used back in those days. For each person according to the number of persons. Let every man take for those who are in his tent. Then the children of Israel did so, and gathered, some more and some less. So when they measured it by omers, he who gathered much had nothing left over, and he who gathered little had no lack. So everybody had what they needed, no more and no less. Every man had gathered according to each's need. And Moses said, Let no one leave any of it till the morning. Basically, God was instructing Moses to tell the children of Israel, don't take more than what you need. Notwithstanding, they did not heed Moses. They didn't listen. But some of them left part of it until morning. And because of it, it bred worms. This is in verse 20. It bred worms and it stank. And Moses was angry with them. So they gathered it every morning, every man according to his need. And when the sun became hot, it melted. God is he's so orchestrative. Because not only did he supply bread and meat for the children of Israel while they hadn't yet arrived to their final destination. They haven't yet arrived to the promised land. They were totally and utterly dependent on God. And this is exactly where God wanted them. So much so that God made it to where he provided for their needs only to sustain them. And that's what it means to be in transition. We are to depend on God so that he can sustain us. And this is why. Jump over to James. I'm going to tell you why I'm going to show you why that it is in the midst of transition, God only wants to sustain us and not give us any more, any less than what we need. James 1. And my brethren, count it all joy when you fall in various trials, knowing that the testing of your faith produces patience. But let patience have its perfect work, that you may be perfect and complete, lacking nothing. So this is the end game. When we're in the deep end, this is why. Because God is working in us patience. It's not that we rejoice in being in trials and being in the deep end, having to wait around, having to sit in the seat of anxiety, waiting for God to move or waiting for God to bring us out. That's not the joy. That's not what we are excited about. But what we're excited about is that in that, what comes from it will far outlast the trial. So in the trial, it produces patience and it produces character. And in that, we will have that ongoing. And that is what it's about. And I thank God for that. So, also, I think what is important here is that the children of Israel, they weren't open. And I think an important part of being in transition is being open. And this is something that God has really shown me in my own personal life. I think sometimes what happens is the devil likes to get us in extremes. Either we're extremely faithful or we're extremely unfaithful. And this is the children of Israel kind of, they express that. An extremeness of not trusting the Lord. And this is the thing. When God has us in transition, there will be times when we are tempted to move by ourselves, in and of our own accord. And to that, I will have you go to James 1 and 12. So just go ahead and skip down to the 12th verse. Blessed is a man who endures temptation, for when he has been approved, he will receive the crown of life, which the Lord has promised to those whom he loves, to those who love him. Let no one say when he is tempted, I am tempted by God. For God cannot be tempted by evil, nor does he himself tempt anyone. But each one is tempted when he is drawn away by his own desires and is enticed. Then when the desire has conceived, it gives birth to sin. And sin, when it is full grown, brings forth death. So when we're in the deep end of life, when we're at a place where God is just telling us, wait, be patient, be open, we have to not fall into temptation to want to act and force things on our own. Because when we do, messiness will come of it. We have to just sit and wait and be patient and let God work. And knowing that he will give us the desires of our heart. And to that, I'm going to have you go over to let's see, Psalms 37 and 4, where it says, delight yourself also in the Lord, and he will give you the desires of your heart.